Call to order. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anybody on council have any preliminary announcements? Mayor, chief, anybody? Okay, if not, we'll go to the roll call.
Councilman Ballas?
Here.
Councilman Shields? Here. Councilman Bodadian?
Present.
Councilman Brennan?
Here.
Councilman Paul?
Here.
Councilman Ingalls?
Here.
President Lloyd?
Present. Okay, notice the people addressing council, please limit yourself to 3 minutes. Avoid references to personalities.
Council, you do have in front of you in the blue handout is people that have requested to speak to the council.
First is Ray Quandis. Ray, do you want to come to the podium, state your name and address?
My name's Ray Flanders, I live at 166 West Marigold Street. I want to talk about different things here, but I decided on this one today. In the whole world, nepotism plays a big part in politics. Here in Mount Hall, we have a lot. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Take Mr. Lloyd, he got into politics and we made calls to get him in thinking he would change everything. But things got worse. I'm not sure. I don't know, because I sit in the chair, not at the table. At the table, you see the end. At the chair, you need to figure it out. Think for yourself and happening to get it right. Maybe I'm right, but I could be wrong. But I'm guessing that since Mr. Lloyd got in, I'd say that it cost the taxpayers at least $1 million, maybe more. So here right now, I'm asking Mr. Lloyd to resign before it gets worse. Now, Mr. Lloyd, you can hit the table one more time and say, I'm out of order. Maybe I'm out of order, but I didn't cost Munhall millions of dollars. Yes, Lloyd, you can leave and take a few more people with you. Munhall people will manage without you. Thank you and have a good one. I'm less than 3 minutes, you love me. And I really wish that you would leave.
Thank you, Mr. Quandis, for
You're
your
welcome.
well-considered comments. We appreciate that.
That's I do, and I hope you
Second,
take it
Michael
into
Aldrich.
Michael will not be here. I saw him earlier. He could not make it this evening.
Jim Barca.
I really don't have too much to say. I live at 1151 Bryant Lane. I'm also chairman of the planning commission. I've been a member of the planning commission, and I actually can't remember, probably over 20 years. I was involved when we wrote the last zoning law and a lot of the changes that have happened. Now, I'm sure zoning laws today has even changed more. And what disturbed me is that I know we know over the years there's been a lot of just things that have gone on. People built stuff, things have changed. In a historic district, they probably painted things the wrong color. But there's two ways to look at it. Is you don't want to have a system where it's a hard line where they'll make you tear it down. If actually there's a house on Broad Lane, a guy from Fortune on West Mifflin side. And it was in the paper. He hasn't finished it. It's been sitting there for whatever reason. And then there's reasonable enforcement. Trying to keep the junk cars off the street, things that are devaluing our neighborhood. You figure a young couple coming in looking for a new home, they see stuff like that. Then after they get done asking about the school system, then they wonder, well, what's the neighborhood really like? So we've done a lot to address that. On Ninth Avenue, there's a wood pole building being built. And from what I interpret, when I look in my book, it's the same book everybody else here has, I don't even know how they ever got a building permit to be there. Now, from what I understand, several years ago, that the zoning board issued a permit to build a house. But the lot needed to be subdivided because you cannot have two primary structures on the same lot. You cannot have an accessory building in the side yard on the corner lot. The size of the building I have to question because it puts a little dent in the residential character of that neighborhood up to Martha Street. We all know after Martha, there's where the old buildings that the mill had and electrical, but Martha divided that. So from Martha up through the library, you got a lot of nice new houses, a couple blocks up. You got a lot of vacant land that maybe someday the school district will convince somebody to develop it. I wouldn't want them to build a bunch of pole buildings up there. My concern is if this is the trend that we're gonna have to tolerate, I would be very cautious about owning a property with a vacant lot next to it. I don't know what the intent for that building is. But I guess I was like, what are we doing? What are we doing to our town? I don't know if anybody else has had the opportunity to get down there. The curb opening, put it in the alley. I don't think there's any curb openings in Martha Street, because it's not a very good street to pull out on. And looks like to me the building's being built for commercial use.
We're talking about that,
Yeah.
and he assured us that he had all the proper permits and a proper thing, and everything was legal.
I don't know, do you have copies of it all?
Well, Jim, you can submit a records request. I apologize that the clock's not working, but you've gone 4 minutes. Can you wrap this up?
Well, I'm
You're
just
welcome
saying
to
is,
do
I
a
think
records
it needs
request
to be,
find
is
out
like,
what the permit asked for and what the occupancy was. Apparently, it's been approved, it went through planning. It
No,
went to the-
no.
It didn't go through planning?
it doesn't go through planning because it was deemed a
variance?
permitted.
A permitted use. Dave, you want to speak to it?
Yeah, the only thing I'm gonna say right now is the building permit for 721 East 9th Avenue was issued on 12/11/2014. The garage meets all zoning requirements for an accessory structure in an R1 area.
When was it issued?
On 12/11/2014.
He was building it well before 12/11.
But the permit had been applied for apparently.
Look, can I ask a question? Do we have drawings that have been reviewed for that building? Does the borough have
You do not need,
architectural
you
drawings?
do not need architectural drawings for a residential building. It's up to the, for an
You don't have to have
for
a
an
plan
accessory
review?
structure, for an accessory structure. It's a garage,
It ain't residential.
it's a residential area.
I'll tell you
But
what,
you're
it's
not
one
allowed-
heck of a garage.
Yeah.
We're gonna move on. Person's requesting time, public comment on agenda items. Oh, we missed Nick. I'm sorry, Nick.
Nick Cabrilla, I live at 179 Marshall Street, Manhattan. I want to address item 7 excuse me, item 6, items for consideration tonight. No doubt, Mr. Lloyd, you and I have bumped heads over the last 2 or 3 years. And I've been quite outspoken about PNC investments. Please understand, I'm going to make a request, and we do not want you, we don't want you to think, or anybody to think, reflect on personal or reflects upon anyone's character. I'm going to ask you, would you consider recusing yourself from voting on that particular issue because a potential appearance for a conflict of interest may exist. Not saying it is, but may exist. Over the time, you've always said you could do better elsewhere. Never directly saying where it was. We first found out about Jane Montgomery and Mr. Bishop's group there on September 24th, 2013. You sent me an email. Okay, and in that email, you requested I get a couple of other persons on the pension board to come to the rock bottom of the waterfront. And it was CC'd to 3 or 4 councilmen. That's the first time I ever heard you mention Robert Bishop of the Janie Montgomery group. As you know, I didn't attend. I don't know if the meeting ever went on. But I'm not aware of any public notice was issued for that. Uncertain of sunshine laws, I didn't go. Was not aware of any request for proposals. And importantly, Act 44 frowns upon doing business in venues such as that. And I also realized there was only one person, or one entity, Janie Montgomery, who was asked to come to this meeting. Investment people. I thought that a little odd, but I didn't go because I was concerned for the reason. Recently, Munelborough issued RFPs for 13 or 14 investment firms responded. Over several meetings, the investment firms were interviewed, a number of them were pared down, primarily based upon the matrix and the needs we developed with Mr. Callan, and he did a very good job on making the matrix. We are curious, however, to know why that we were not informed in the formal proposal. We couldn't find anywhere during their presentation. Good business practices would dictate so. It's troubling to us that Janie Montgomery did not present that information. The two past things that I just noted, the waterfront and the library situation, could present an appearance of a conflict of interest. Mr. Brennan recently, last summer, recused himself when there might have been an appearance of conflict of interest when voting on an issue with a sewer authority. It's not without precedent. That action preserved the public trust in this council, and I laud him for his actions. He did very well. Members of this council, some members of this council, I should say, requested me, through the solicitor, to recuse myself, and I received a letter from the solicitor on an issue before the Civil Service Board. I too stepped aside to preserve the integrity of that independent board and the good of order. We are just kindly asking that you take our concerns into consideration this evening when we come to that item and recuse yourself, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. We'll move on. Public comment on agenda items only. Anybody want to comment on agenda items? Donna, come on up to the podium.
Told you again, if you didn't want me to, send me a gift card.
Too late now.
Right now. You got me. Anyway, a motion for, motion for, how many representatives from the borough will be attending the legislative meeting on January 15th?
I was considering maybe attending it. I'm not sure yet, though.
We don't know the answer to that question. That's up for discussion at the time of the motion. There's no preconceived number, no preconceived.
So when you come to this motion, everyone will say, I'm gonna go, or will you decide later on?
I'm invited by I'm on the board of directors for this. If I go, I'm paid for by the Allegheny County Boroughs Association, not the Mono Borough,
Okay.
but I don't know.
Motion 7 and motion 8. Once these bills are paid, what will our cash balance be?
Roughly $400,000.
400,000? Okay. And motion 5. If this is adopted to be proposed and advertised, I'd like to know, are we gonna see the proper figures? Because last year we were given erroneous information.
How's that, Donna?
Well, under the one, on 11/26/2013. It had the salary manager make $60,000 for 2013, where it says budgeted, and we found out later on in the year that we made a lot more. It also showed-
No, just let me answer.
Go ahead,
So at the time that was presented, and that's what the number was gonna be, it wasn't erroneous. Because that is the number it was supposed to be.
Well, one came
So
out
how was it
later.
erroneous in
Because one
December
came-
or January of that year?
Because one came out later in the middle of December that showed him making 150-some thousand.
I don't recall that.
That one, I did not bring it, I do have it scanned.
Well,
I will
it
find
might have
for
been
you
for
when
all
you see it.
administration, but it wasn't certainly for the manager.
It landed in public hands.
To answer your question, the 2015 budget will be the only.
Will it also show the previous years? Okay, because
2014.
I was at the budget meeting last week and it stated that we so far have paid $293,000 in legal fees. Is that true for this year?
After we broke it down, it was split between solicitor, lawyers, and legal tax service, which was a good amount of that. So we have since broken it down for council.
Okay, because the way it sounded like so that's everybody combined.
The way it was coded in the books, it would all combine into one, so I broke it down for council that it's not as bad as it looked. But when we broke it down, the commissions from collection on real estate and garbage fees was a good part that was associated with the legal tax service plus their fees.
Okay, because last year it was only budgeted $35,000 for legal expenses. And we did go over budget, correct?
It was changed, the final budget number was $60,000 to $65,000 in the approved budget for legal fees. Yes, I think we were in the 90s. We had 3 or 4 lawsuits that were pending for several years that all got put on the docket this year, so our legal fees were higher, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else for agenda items, comments on agenda items? If not, we'll move into the minutes. Rob?
There are no minutes for November 19th. If you recall, at the last meeting, our secretary was involved in a car accident, could not make the meeting. And we hope to have them for the next council meeting for review and adoption.
Reports from borough officials. Mayor?
I guess this isn't working.
Just speak loud, everyone's being quiet.
No, I don't want everybody. Well, the mayor's gonna be the bad guy again. Every budget time, the mayor's a bad guy because, quite frankly, I'm confused by a lot of things right now. And I looked at the budget that was presented tonight, and it's the same budget from the 15th, except for the $800,000 tax anticipation bond, is that correct? Okay. There's some confusion though. Understand, I'll talk about the budget first. I got a lot of items tonight, Mr. Chairman. I think that there's confusion in the police offering their freeze for an additional year, natural extension of the contract to 1 year. I was told that was, that was pretty much okay. And now I can see from some of these numbers and everything that the council wants to go ahead with a 2-year contract, because the people have said that the council will go with a 2-year contract rather than a 3-year contract. If I'm wrong, straighten me out right now. And I know people have talked to people, and, this is the trouble with our kind of business. It should all be discussed right here. There's modifications, there's adjustments that we have. This budget will be presented, whatever's passed, to the public. And the public has until December 30th, if I'm not wrong, to make modifications, corrections, and also bring subjects up. The pay freeze is something that I kind of figured when I came in here tonight was going to be adopted to the budget. Now I understand that it's not gonna be adopted, that we have enough money to do without the pay freeze. Well, that's all well and good, except for one thing. I don't think everybody's on the same page. If any of you councilmen are, if I'm talking out of turn, please correct me now. Because I certainly wanna see this budget go through, but I wanna see the budget go through that we're all in agreement on. If we're gonna do a pay freeze with the police, who have generously offered us, then let's continue with it. And I see by some of the material I've handed out, because I haven't gotten any reports until now, I've been trying to catch up. Anyway, I think that's gotta be decided by the council. You pass what you want with the, idea of, again, December 30th, this is a preliminary budget. And I think that if there's other people who wanna speak about this, I think they should open up their mouths and talk about it.
Is there something in writing from the police on the pay freeze?
Yes,
I mean, I'd like to see something in writing.
yeah, there's something.
We have here tonight,
Here it is right here. There it is right there.
okay.
Letter from,
you don't have it in your packet.
Representative.
I don't have it.
Representative Ford on December 12th.
We discussed it in executive session, we discussed the numbers. I failed to mention at the beginning of the meeting that we did discuss personnel issues and contracts before we came over. That should be noted in the minutes. And we did review the offer of the police pay freeze in the executive session.
Yes, I agree you did, but I left with the idea of thinking that the pay freeze was out, and I'm getting other vibrations from other people saying that the pay freeze is still out there as an offer for 3 years. Now, it's up to council to do that part of it. I'll express my feelings no matter what, you don't know. I'll move on to something else. Oh, by the way, there's some good stuff too. And Becky, I can't walk too good anymore, so this is a check from John Dempster from Jefferson Hospital for our light-up night. Our light-up night this year cost us $516.16, or 18 cents. John was kind enough to see that we needed a few bucks, and even though we had budgeted money, there's a check in there for $500. Our light-up night cost us $16.18. So I want to present that over, and please send him a thank you, because that was so nice of him. That's one thing.
Thank you.
The second thing is, Public Works, I can't thank you enough for the great job you did out here on the building itself, and I'm so glad you got the manure out, believe me. And, you know, it's just something that we have to do, and you guys, all of you, did a terrific job, and I appreciate, you know, you took the time out to make, our building looks nicer, I think, this year than it's ever looked. So thank you very much, and pass that on to the guys. God bless them. Other thing is, the light-up committee, special thanks to the light-up committee, special thanks to the little person back here, Glenn Cole, Danny Bowman, Jimmy McGrath, and John Catoni. These guys went above and beyond the call of duty, believe me, and they hustled for me, they hustled for this borough like you wouldn't believe, and saved all kinds of money. Glenn, John, Danny, and Jimmy, thank you. We look forward to next year so you can get twice as much work again, okay? You know I'll be there, but thank you very much. The last item, and it's an item that probably I'm going to try and touch on lightly. Obviously, we've been contacted by the railroad, by their attorneys, and also by the project manager at the east flyover down at the flyover at the waterfront. And they were addressing to us the damaged guardrail of the flyover drive, and they are giving us some time to fix it. The railroad is, more or less, and also the people project manager and the associates that expect us to fix that guardrail. Now, Monalboro, true, owns the bridge. Why that ever happened, God only knows. They should have never owned the bridge or any of the property down there. It was passed, and I looked through the documents, and some fool by the name of Bodnar wasn't there. Or it had never got through the way it was. At any rate, we are expected to fix the guardrail, and I don't know what the cost would be, $10,000-$12,000 like it is, because of there's a liability factor in there. And I've got more people legally looking besides our solicitor into it from the PUC, from the senator's office, from the county. I want legal opinions on why we should be responsible, although I know if the Public Utilities Commission committed that to us, Munhall, you own it, so tough luck. Gentlemen, that bridge needs fixed. It's needs fixed for 12 years that I've been trying to get it fixed. The dog leg's gotta go. And while they're talking about the guardrail, I understand, but I'm talking about fixing the whole thing. And the railroad has, I guess, every right, because if there should anything happen and somebody runs through the guardrail over, down the bridge onto a train, which, you know, who knows? But anyway, it's expected to be corrected by this firm, by them. It's expected to be corrected by Munhall Borough. Munhall Borough can't afford this kind of stuff. Come on, we really own that. We didn't get the waterfront paved because of this stupid agreement with the bridge. And we didn't get anything else done on the bridge because of the stupid agreement on the bridge, because you own it, Munhall. Homestead, West Homestead didn't take their part of Waterfront Drive over. Munhall's the dummies. Me too, I guess. At any rate, I'm talking about something that's supposed to require physical action to correct the deficiency that's down there. And I'm waiting for the legal opinions from different people before we progress on that. And I can tell you one thing though, we'll handle it. Munhall always does. We got a great town. We'll handle it. And don't worry, the mayor might be a little goofy, but he has ways of handling the situation. So going with that, that's all I'll say unless someone wants to add, Mr. Solicitor, anything on there that maybe I overlooked. We have ways of dealing with the problem, but we're gonna wait again too to see how many of these people step forward. First of all, that bridge should not belong to Munhall, and same way with the property. That bridge should belong to somebody else, and I'll get into that another time. Thank you. That's all I have. Sorry I talked too much.
Thank you. Most of my items were executive session items pertaining to contract negotiations, personnel, litigation, a number of other things. That's, as Mr. Lloyd indicated, that's part of the reason we're late. I have a lot to talk about in executive session. I just got one item. We had conducted a search of the ordinances in the borough and determined that we do indeed have a firearms ordinance which mandates residents to report lost or stolen firearms. It's my recommendation that we rescind that ordinance. So I'm going to ask council to make a motion to authorize me to prepare an ordinance rescinding that ordinance, and also to advertise the new ordinance so that it can be enacted next month at council's pleasure. The reason for that is there's recent legislation, which you may have read about in the paper, it's gotten a lot of news lately, that stemmed from cases filed against the city of Pittsburgh and the city of Philadelphia by the NRA and other organizations about regulation of firearms. Firearms are regulated by the state of Pennsylvania, and there was challenges raised to these local ordinances whether or not the local governments have the authority to regulate firearms, and the recent legislation confirmed that they may not. And part of this legislation then authorizes the NRA and other outside organizations to actually file suit against local governments that have such ordinances. So for that reason, I'm recommending that we rescind that ordinance, and I discussed that with council, and I would ask them to make a motion tonight as I indicated. That's all I have to report.
Any questions? Manager?
One thing I have on my report, item of interest to all, is the proposed 2015 budget. There's a backdrop and some preliminary information. Budget workshops were advertised in the Valley Mirror and the Daily News from December 8th through this evening. There were 3 separate workshops, discussion this evening as well. That evolved into 4 different documents of the budget based on council's input. And tonight we hope to present a proposed budget for Munhall Borough. And effective tomorrow through the 30th, will be open for public inspection, both at the office as well as the website. I will put an asterisk there for yesterday and today. We were without web service because of Comcast. We invested 8 hours between the past 2 days, and hopefully it'll be up tomorrow. If it isn't, somewhere will be posted once we do have service. On the website, but a copy, of course, will be available in the office for public inspection. Anyone wants to come in during regular business hours to view that. The backdrop going into 2015 budget, as I announced at every one of our public sessions to everyone, is that 2013, obviously we knew it was a very difficult year for this government as well as the community. And it was carried over into 2014 as well. We were looking at going into 2014, and we still have some of the liabilities going into 2015. We were able in 2014 to get the annual audits done for 2011, 12, and 13, which heretofore should have been done and were not. Because of that, council's ability to get that done, we were able to now secure roughly $250,000 of county sales tax, which heretofore we did not get because of lack of audits. Over the last 2 years and going into 2015, we're looking at a workers' compensation premium of $430,000 a year. We're hoping to get that reduced marginally in 2015. It's certainly a millstone around our necks. We do have roughly $80,000 of Social Security penalties that have yet to be resolved based on prior administration's office. We're looking at $21,000 of assessed penalties from the Department of Revenue that still yet need to be resolved. So going into 2015, we have a number of liabilities that we need to carry and resolve, and hopefully we possibly can. Looking at the 2015 budget, we're looking at, proposed to council, a budget of $8,314,470. Present a balanced budget. You have that in front of you. That's the 4th document that evolved over the past 3 budget workshops. Primarily, we are not looking at any millage increase. We're not looking at any layoffs. We're not looking at any pay freezes. What we're looking at is, of course, we'll be looking at an $800,000 tax anticipation note. Hopefully we will have by this time next month. Again, that's money coming in, it's money that's going out that needs to be paid within the year that we receive it. But we will need those dollars into the first quarter of 2015 before the real estate tax revenues begin to come in. I also proposed an increase in the garbage fee. The garbage fees right now, as we speak, is $120 per year per household if paid by the end of the first quarter of the year, or $160 per year per household if the household chooses to pay quarterly. I'm proposing that we increase the garbage fee from that $120 to $180 per year
Oh, come on.
if paid by the first quarter
Out of your
of the
mind.
2015, and $220 per year if paid quarterly. That is to cover substantially the cost of providing refuse service. Landfill fees have gone up, certainly wages have gone up. So rather than increase, we were looking at a 3 mil increase going into the budget in our first meeting. Reason for that, the numbers we were working with at that time were end of September. We were looking at possible layoffs of up to 3 people. We got new numbers from our independent financial consultant that we recently retained. Looking at actual numbers at the end of November, those revenues have substantially increased and can be documented that the plight that we saw a couple of weeks ago were not quite as severe. However, there was still a gap. And I propose that that gap be filled with a garbage increase as well as a tax anticipation note. And I present to council a balanced budget of $8,314,470, which will be available for public inspection and comment on the special meeting on December 30th.
Any questions for Bob?
When was the last time the garbage fee was raised? Anybody know?
I was on
I think it's
council. It was probably 5 or 6 years ago. I was on council.
It used to be $100 and we went up to $120, I think.
Yeah.
Well, what's the average for a municipality our size?
It's in line. I think it's somewhere, Pleasant Hills and Jefferson, I think, are a little bit more than what our new one will be.
That's
So-
what I thought.
Yeah,
It's in line with most places our size.
Correct. And it's more commensurate with what the actual costs are with, diesel fuel going up over $4 and workers' comp going up over $400,000. It's more.
But I mean, it's not an excessive rate.
No, it's not an excessive fee in terms of like towns for the service.
Can I add something to that?
Yes.
Speaking to you guys do a great job. And I think the fee that we charge is worth every penny to have you guys out there working the streets. I think you guys, when you guys are out there, you are another set of eyes for our borough. These guys are out there, they live here, they're part of the town. We want you here, year-round, driving the streets. God forbid, if my son's driving around on a bicycle or someone's walking down the street, falls or slips, you guys aren't gonna just drive by. You're gonna stop, you're gonna call Pat, things are gonna happen. I think you guys are just as much a part of public safety as the police officers. You're another set of eyes, and I'm all behind you. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
I'd like to add to that. I also want to thank you, and I know in different occasions that you help out the senior citizens, which I know you go into people's yards, some of these older people, and get their garbage instead of having them walk it out all the time. And I appreciate that, and everything what Rick says, and I agree with it, and just keep up the good work, and thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Anybody else? If not, we'll move on to the engineer. Lindsay.
Thank you. I have nothing new to report on the ongoing projects. I did want to mention that looking forward through, once the budget is passed, looking forward to 2015 to look at the liquid fuels and look at a fueling plant, things of that nature, so just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
I just want to add that, Lindsay, I have a call into PennDOT regarding reimbursement that we talked about a couple months ago.
Yeah, has that not come through?
My concern is he's not returning my phone calls, so I think we need to follow up with him aggressively.
That's my typical, what happens typically with me.
It's $42,000.
Let me, I do have some contacts that we can, remind me, what I can do.
Thank you.
Public Works, Bob.
Gave you a copy of my report. Maybe you have any questions on it?
I have,
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
since I threw the flyers over at people, thank you for doing that guardrail too, again, this was one thing, the guardrail on Main Street. If you could paint black and yellow on it, appreciate that.
Okay. Police chief.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be brief. 552 calls for service, 38 arrests, 52 citations for the month. You have a copy of my report. Couple things I want to get on real quick. One is we did a Toys for Tots drive again this year. We sent 2 big boxes of toys over to the Marine Corps for the annual Toys for Tots drive. I would like to, the police department and the borough, I think, should give a great deal of gratitude to Mr. Orr and his neighbors on their Main Street. They filled up one of those boxes themselves. They're on like down in the hollow. I think, like I said, gratitude to Mr. Orr.
Let's give them a
Second thing, I just, shortly before the meeting, I got a call from a friend of mine. His mother-in-law passed away. She was a long-time school survivor, Ethel Gordon. So just keep our family on prayers. That's the end of my report. Unless you have any questions?
And we'll put the wreath out and.
Right. Take care of that tomorrow. Yeah, Regis is the one who called.
Pat, can you clarify the situation? I know it's been reported that Munhall constables dragged a woman out of her home. Can you clarify that in fact they were not
Yes, I
Munhall
can very
constables?
much clarify that. Munhall, they were not Munhall constables, they were not constables from the Sioux Valley area. They were constables that are deputized out of the city of Pittsburgh. There's a city of Pittsburgh warrant for $105 parking fee that subsequently was already paid prior to those constables arriving at that woman's home. I received a call from Chief Deasy from West Homestead that day asking if we had any constables working in our town. I told him not that I was made aware of. He informed me of the situation. I met him on scene. They had already taken the woman out of the house. They are not employed, they're not elected borough constables anywhere in the Sioux Valley. They work out of the city of Pittsburgh. They have nothing to do with our magistrate's office or our town.
Were they supposed to notify you they were coming in to serve anything? Is that common practice or
Common
courtesy?
practice if they would. We have constables here on a daily basis. We'll stop in, hey, I have a warrant for this person, be familiar with them, give me any particulars about the house I'm going to. Normally we'll say, you need an officer to come with you. These particular constables, been to our town many times, have never done that to my knowledge.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll move on. Fire chief. Yes, sir. Before we move on to our fire chief, I did a little bit of research and found that he was, and correct me if I'm wrong, he was a battalion chief for 8 years, or assistant fire chief for 8 years, and then he's been the fire chief for another 8 years, 16 years of
Deputy for 8 years.
outstanding service to the borough, and I think we all owe him a hand of applause. This is his last meeting, he's retired.
No, you just embarrassed me. Thank you, everyone. Like the police chief, I will be brief, because I know it's going to be a long meeting. I have some numbers for you. I apologize for the late report to you guys. I had some technical difficulties getting my mutual aid, my out-of-town calls. So the report that you have includes just calls for the month for the Bureau of Fire in town. So there's 33 calls in town, 282 calls it out at hours it calls, 456 training hours. We have 92 other hours for a total of 830 hours for the month. And I think I've told you in the past that I know I have in several meetings about the increase in our calls. So I just thought I'd give you some quick numbers here. Normally, for the last 7 years, we've averaged 325 calls for the year. 299 through the month of November. what we're looking at now, with just the calls in Munhall for this month, we're at 442 for the month, or for the year, I'm sorry. That's a 48% increase in our call volume for this year. So, I think 7 years worth of numbers, that's pretty, that's pretty good. We hold right in that area, but, 48% increase in the calls, for this year. So, several reasons for that, but, we've talked about that in the past. 3 injuries so far for the year. Thankfully, none of them are very serious. I don't believe that any of those were time lost injuries, like a minimal cut, things like that. We are forming a safety committee for that workman's comp. I know our workers' comp is separate from the borough's workman's compensation. And with this safety committee, we're looking at saving the borough about 5% right off the bat. Unfortunately, that won't come into play until next year, because we have to have the safety committee in place. So that will be in place.
We would like
So,
the fire department to also have representation on our safety committee as well.
I'll pass it on to the new chief. That's one of those things I get to push off. The last thing I have is the Santa Run is coming up this coming weekend, Saturday and Sunday. As you know, fire department takes Santa around through the area, visiting the little kids and so forth. So Santa's going to be doing that on Saturday and Sunday. They've set up a Twitter account, so you can follow on Twitter at Munhall Central. You can also like the Facebook page, Munhall Central Volunteer Fire and Rescue. They'll be posting photos and so forth on there. And this year,